We have Sarah Rogo, and she's developed her Soulful Roots style, marinated in blues, soul, and folk, giving those styles her own savory seasonings. She shared the stage with Joe Bonamassa and Jimmie Vaughn and is a TEDx speaker. She also goes by Rogo and enraptures her audiences, jamming at the crossroads of free-spirited songwriting and untamed slide guitar playing. Artist, educator, thought leader, I present to you Sarah Rogo. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from the New York area, but I'm in Los Angeles right now. I'm based out of Los Angeles.
Nice. Do you come from a musical family?
Nope, not a, well, maybe I think my great-grandfather played a mean banjo.
Oh, yeah?
But other than, and then my great-grandmother loved to dance, but other than that, my family is not really into music, but I think that's exactly why I chose music.
Gotcha. So you're starting the first generation. How did you, where'd this come from? How did you get started with music?
Well, I will say, and I love that you're carrying the torch of like education, but a lot of it was the public school system. A lot of it was the public library. Yeah, the public library. I would go to the library all the time when my mom was working and I didn't really have much to do. I'd go there and I would go to the CD section and I would just kind of comb through all the CDs and take out, stacks and stacks of CDs from Arabic music to Celtic music to blues music to rock music. I would just kind of dive into it. And I will safely say that the library definitely changed my life, as well as public school, whether it was recorder class into band. So that's really how I got into.
What was your first instrument that you started with?
The saxophone. Yeah,
saxophone.
I was actually a professional saxophone player through college as well, or into college. I went to Berklee College of Music on a saxophone scholarship, actually.
Really?
And yeah, I played a lot of jazz and classical, but guitar, I fell in love. I've played guitar since I was 14 years old, but I just did it as like an extension to me. I didn't think that it was something that I do or pursue, but I just fell in love with it deeper when I was out in Boston and I met my blues guitar mentors and it became my life.
Wow. Was there like a certain turning point where you're like, okay, slide guitar, this is my thing. This is what I want to focus on?
There was a turning point, and his name is Paul Rochelle. I still am so grateful to study with him remotely today. I met him in Boston through Berklee College of Music, and he studied and played with the great Son House, and played with a lot of great people like Bonnie Raitt and Charles and all this stuff with his partner Annie Raines, who plays a mean harmonica. But they put me under their wing. And they taught me the slide guitar and let me borrow their amazing instruments just with full trust. And they took me on the road touring down to the Mississippi Delta. And
oh my gosh.
So they really sparked the importance of mentors is a really beautiful, beautiful thing.
And yeah, it sounds like you were really embraced into a whole community and then taken on the road. It's a fascinating story. What are your influences as a slide player?
In general speaking, I love to pull from different styles of music that aren't really just slide guitar. Like I love, I love Arabic music. I love Celtic music. I love Indian music. But similar, Derek Trucks, my favorite slide guitar player, was influenced and made his way as a unique guitarist because he studied Indian music and is very, very enthralled with Indian music. So I think as instrumentalists, it's really important for us to not just look at, the famous instrumentalists around us of the same instrument, but to look to other styles of music. But as for guitar, I love Derek Trucks.
Okay.
Like so creative and brilliant. But I also love, the pre-war blues. I love Blind Willie. I love Blind Willie Johnson. I love Son House. I love Skip James. The list kind of goes on and on. I love Memphis Minnie. A lot of the mamas of the blues, so to speak.
What do you think? I'm sorry to interrupt. What do you think it is about that pre-war blues that really strikes a chord with you?
I think it's the lack of overthinking. I think it's the point where culture was still really embedded within the music, and they played to live, and they lived to play. Whereas, sometimes now we're caught up in like, okay, well, I want to write this song, but I want it to be more for radio because this is going to be like my radio single. So
Right.
and I think sometimes when we play and when we write from a space of like thinking versus just like, I need this to like survive in my emotions
Right.
or world. I think I'm not going to say it was like a simpler time back then because nothing is ever simple, but there was less like noise of like technology. Those artists didn't have the internet to say,
Right.
inspired by Derek Trucks or this or that. And so sometimes we're inspired and there's so much information coming at us that, like the limitation of just having what's in front of you in the present moment is really beautiful. So yeah, I think that's what makes it extra special. And plus there's just that sheer just like rawness and the pain of racism, of of poverty, of injustice, of just trying to kind of walk through the world and survive. That it makes it more potent.
Yeah, it seems like there was maybe a purity of intent with the music. There wasn't any other motives other than to express yourself.
Exactly.
Do you have certain tunings that you prefer? I'm not much of a slide player. I've tried it a few times, so I'm really fascinated by this. What tunings do you prefer?
Yes. Okay, I love open tunings. I think standard tuning on the guitar is great. I think you can do a lot with it, but originally speaking, on the guitar or on instruments itself, there were open tunings, like even instruments in Africa or Mongolia. All their instruments are tuned up to a chord. So slide guitar kind of usually resonates with that.
Right.
I love the tuning of open D.
Open D, gotcha.
Right here. So if you're a guitar player, the strings are D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. Now some guitar players play in dad gad instead of the F sharp. I play an open D, so it's D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. And that way, when you strum without hitting any of the strings, it's a D chord.
Right.
So you just kind of center everything around that. And so I use open D, I use open G often as well. But those are kind of the two main, to me, slide guitar tunings that I play around with. And there's a lot of really cool things you can find with that.
What are some of the unique characteristics of those tunings that maybe open D? What does that lead you towards? Certain licks or riffs?
Yeah, totally. So the cool thing about open tunings is that you have the open strings to play around with. So even if you want all the strings to ring out, you can just play one note. So you can do a lot of just
pedal.
like Joni Mitchell, how she does a lot of that type of stuff too. And then when it comes to the slide, you can just.
There we go.
The cool thing about guitar is that it's actually it's pretty simple because you have that open D to go back to. So you playing slide, you only really focus on, if you're playing blues, like the open strum, the 5th fret, the 7th fret, sometimes the 3rd, and open, and the 12th fret as well. That's all you really need to know. Open, 3rd, 5th, 7, going to 3rd, and then the 5th. Pretty simple, but it's what you do with it that counts.
I feel like we're in a movie. That sound, it transports you. Yeah, it's a great time. Like we're on the Mississippi right now.
Yeah, if you're watching this, I'm sure some of you are like, what is she holding? Is that a guitar? Is that
wow.
What is happening here?
Yes.
Talk about history right here. This is a National Resophonic guitar. It's called the kind of guitar it is called a resonator guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, they're completely metal. I do have one that's mahogany and brass, but this one's completely brass. And as you can see, underneath the hood of this are 3 cones, because it's called a tricone guitar. They're like little discs that are raised. So it's like when when you put your phone into a cup to make like a makeshift speaker, or if you go, hello, hello,
cup in your voice.
Amplifies. So it's the same thing how this guitar works. This is a natural amplified guitar. And it was created, forgive me about dates, but I think it's around 1930s.
Wow.
Guitars were created because they needed to compete with the big bands because there was no amplifiers. So these had to be naturally very loud guitars.
Interesting.
So yeah, and this is how they kind of, they came to be. Yeah. Wow.
That's an incredible, not only sounding guitar, but it's beautiful the way it's crafted. It looks, it's an old school guitar, but it looks futuristic.
Exactly. I know. It's funny. I mean, this one was made just for me a handful of years ago. But there are some that still exist from like the 40s and 30s that work great. And they're timeless instruments. And I actually work with this company to help people build like their custom national guitars, and they're all just such high quality and amazing things. But if if you're on a budget to get a resonator guitar, you can go with a company called Recording King.
Okay, thank you.
Republic, because those are 2 affordable options. A national resophonic is definitely an investment. So there's a lot of options if you want to find something like this.
How did you choose, Sarah, which finger to slide with? Because I know some people slide with their middle. Yeah. So how did you make that choice?
I think it's just as natural as like when you're younger, like what foot you decide to kick with the ball. Honestly, like I like my feet because I can use my other fingers behind the slide. I can. So I can play behind my slide. But some people are very, very comfortable using it on their ring finger. And a lot of slide guitar players will use either or. So I don't think there's a right or the wrong answer. I personally just use my pinky.
And how did you arrive at that particular slide? Because I know that we have maybe you can explain to the audience what are some of the slide options.
Yeah, so there are a handful of different options. You can do glass, and I actually do rotate and kind of use them all. Mostly it's because of like what I can find in my bedroom or my case, but yeah, I use glass.
Okay.
There's glass. There's steel. There's another slide I have called magnesium. It's basically a glass slide, but it's metal, but it's like the lightest metal. Like it's almost like air. Mag Slide is the name of the company. And there's ceramic as well, like pottery. Jeez. So yeah, I mean, oftentimes different guitars will react. Like when you play a glass slide, it's usually a little bit more smoother and sweeter as when you play a brass slide. You have the option for it to be like really hardy and like clangy if you want, like the texture. any good slide player can get a lot of those sounds out of any slide. I think it just depends on like your preference of like weight. I actually love a heavy slide because I could just feel like I just like, and I just kind of break glass all the time. So I've stopped using.
You're sliding pretty hard, Sarah.
Yeah, I just drop it. I put it on my lap and I end up standing up and I just keep breaking them. So I just usually just go with my glass, and they don't all have to be rounded like this. I like it just because I can hit notes from the top. But I would just say in picking a slide, make sure it's not too big. It's okay if it's if it's a little clunky because there's a piece of material on your finger. It's inherently going to be some adjustment, but make sure it's not too big, especially if you have smaller hands. There's companies out there, many companies have small size slides.
You know, as I always wonder with slide players, do you ever get the urge just to play without a slide? Or is it like you just love that slide so much, you're going to reach for that slide every time?
I mean, I do. I play like I play electric guitar and I play slide with electric guitar, but sometimes I have certain guitars that are in standard tuning that I just play normally too. Because I play other like singer-songwriter music and other folk and blues, and you know, it's nice to sometimes not have a slide too. So everything is it's just a different flavor or a different painting, so to speak, you know. So
yeah. What does a day in the life of playing the guitar look like for you? Like, when are you playing? What are you playing? Are you writing, practicing, improvising, and how long?
I think every day is just completely different. I've kind of, but I say this as somebody who has worked on her discipline. Like, I am a very disciplined person, and but I don't really force myself to kind of sit down and practice anything in particular, sit down and write anything in particular. I kind of, granted, I had enough of that in music school, so that it is helpful for, I think, for people to discipline themselves in that way. But I'm really just allow myself to be inspired by like whatever's around me. I love to travel. Obviously right now, you know, I can't, but I love to travel, and I just take my guitar with me wherever I go. And that's why I chose the guitar, and I couldn't really learn the piano when I tried because I couldn't sit still. So I bring my guitar wherever I go, whether it's a park or to another country. And I usually just play and compose like with my inspiration around me. Sometimes my days consist of like just listening and trying to figure out what I'm listening to. Sometimes it's writing, and sometimes it's playing no guitar at all. Like there's been times where I didn't play guitar for like a full week, and that's okay. You know, I'm practicing other things that inherently help my guitar playing. Like I love qigong. I'm a martial artist. I love martial arts. I took up roller skating, skateboarding. I love surfing.
Oh my gosh.
Dancing. Like to me, all like allowing myself to do all of those things is actually going to help me play the guitar. So anybody who's like, I have to, you know, be this prolific guitar player, I need to just sit down and practice for like 6 hours a day or whatever. And if that calls to you, that's great. But I think allowing yourself to like live and like have fun and be inspired, I think that's where the magic is. So yeah, a day in the life of me is kind of just, you know, whatever I'm inspired to do. Granted, I do know when I'm avoiding my guitar. Like I do know that like I would have a good time if I picked up the guitar and learned the song I've always wanted to be learning. And once I'm like sitting down, I get rolling. So there's something to be said for sometimes just discipline and sit down with the guitar and start.
It sounds like you have so many cool artistic options and choices that I'm sure some of them inform each other, and you borrow from different disciplines, and it probably merges its way into your art with music. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I do teach guitar, and I do teach music, but I actually teach, I'm a creative coach. I believe in integration, and I help people and help myself, help artists, whether the artists are visual artists or guitar players, whatever. I help them integrate like other practices into their life that will ultimately help their creativity or blossom that. And I think if you just, treat yourself and your guitar like a machine that you just constantly run and practice, you're not really an artist, right?
Yeah.
You're might be a guitar player, but you're not really an artist. And at the end of the day, we want to move ourselves and we want to move people. So what are we really trying to do here? So I think, integrating like passions, like whatever you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And then things like mindfulness, like certain aspects of meditation. And like even working with a student the other day, she has a hard time sitting down and committing to playing her guitar because maybe there's some resistance there because she doesn't feel like, oh, she's good enough or can't figure it out. And realize like, that's not an issue with the guitar.
Right.
That's something else that has to be looked at, separately and together with the guitar. So just getting people to understand that playing the guitar or learning an instrument is about like integrating our emotions and our mind and our body and our spirit to like work as one.
You seem very, I look up to you as far as being just so connected to your art. I know I've gone through phases where I feel like a machine and you can lose touch with why you started. But I always seem to find a way back. But, it's very inspiring what you're doing and how you're able to stay connected to your art and stay grounded.
I think we always kind of lose our way sometimes. And as long as we come back, it's fine.
Yeah. How has music helped you connect to a broader world?
Well, my main goal, I guess I should say, with music is actually to travel the world and connect people with each other, to connect my fans with different types of music, to different cultures. I just went to Nicaragua not too long ago, and just learning the language there, learning Spanish and incorporating Spanish in some of my songs, with some of the locals, making connections for them, with them, and just having that plan to do that kind of all around the world, not only like incorporate some of that flair into my own music, but allowing them, maybe even whether it's through my podcast or through, musical recordings, have a platform for them to get discovered, and to have them be able to highlight parts of their culture to different audiences. So that's really my passion, especially after kind of going through the music industry ringer here in LA. Like it just is dark and it gets cloudy, and I realized like what is the purpose of music in life? And it's, to me, I just want to make the world like a better place. And I think that's expanding out into the world versus just focusing on like a market or an industry in a city,
Yeah. And your music, I mean, you're incorporating so many different styles. So I just imagine as you continue to grow, it's just going to have more of a broader appeal, just because you're connected to so many cultures and you're not necessarily like trying to do the thing that is going to appeal to everybody or a certain market. It just comes natural because this is who you naturally are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and then that's the advice too I have for any artist, is that be who you are. And if you don't know who you are, like that's what the journey is. It's just like finding who you are, and that who you are can always be changed and can always just evolve. But I think, to me, that's the goal, is be who you are and not what the world is trying to mold you into.
That's inspiring right there. I read on your site that there was an Indian family down the street that had a musical impact on your artistry. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I had neighbors growing up that I don't think they realize. I should reach out to them. I don't think they realize how much they affected me. But my parents my dad's a businessman, my mom's a flight attendant. They were traveling a lot, and I would spend a lot of time with my neighbors, and they're an Indian immigrant family. And they just, walking into their house, just the smells of the food and the colors and the festivities and the music, it was just so beautiful. And I just remember laying under their piano while they would practice, like one by one, they would practice the classical music, and I would just like lay under the piano and memorize these songs just in my and then get to go to their like cultural dance ceremonies and eat dinner with them, eat with my hands and experience different flavors as like a 10-year-old,
Wow.
these strong, pungent flavors. It really affected me like a lot, having that around.
What do you think is the most important lesson you learned in your journey with music?
The first thing that's coming to my mind is let go and surrender to whatever is flowing through you. And it's okay if it's not what you thought it would be. And just trust the process and maintain your integrity. And don't give yourself away. Don't use your intuition, especially when it comes to business, but yeah, ultimately speaking, the main lesson is just let go and let it flow through you.
How do you let go, though?
That's a great question. I'll see what you do. No, I'll see you in episode 10. No, again, we talk about that integration, and it's the practice to me of that is a type of meditation. I mean, it doesn't have to be very stereotypical, like, you sit cross-legged and you try to clear your mind, or maybe that works, right? But letting go is actually a practice, and you can't just tell somebody, let go, relax, don't think. That's a practice within itself. And I equally practice the art of letting go as much, if not more, than practicing my actual guitar.
It's something you have to do over and over.
Yeah.
Just like practicing and picking up your guitar, practicing those slide guitar licks.
Yeah. Because those slide guitar licks are not going to be even physically letting go in the body. If I'm like tight because I'm trying to like, think too hard, or it's not going to come out. Whereas if I'm just kind of like relaxed and letting go of the worry of being sloppy or not getting something right. Like if I imbue my music with a spirit, if I make a mistake, is that really a mistake? Right. Yeah. So letting go is means a lot of things, but letting go means like not caring in a way, and just doing it, just playing and not caring what it sounds like or who's going to like it, or, get the mind out of it.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of us are attracted to artists, timeless artists, who they didn't really care what you thought. In some ways, this is who I am. This is what I do. They might care about the broader world and care about social issues, but they didn't care whether you might agree with them, or if you didn't like this melody, or this is it.
That's a battle too, though. And I think that's what I want young artists and old artists to understand, is that those people who don't care about like what anybody thinks, like that's because they practice that. That to me as a human doesn't come naturally, because we're naturally kind of self-conscious. We want people to like us. But the people who are doing well and saying like, what, I don't care, I don't care what other people think or something, I think that's a practice. Because they're so strong in themselves that they know who they are. So it's not even that they don't care what other people think. They understand the power of sticking to who they are. And if people don't like it, then they don't like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Where can we point the new Sarah Rogo fans?
Well, there's a few different places. I do I have a lot of activity on Instagram, which is Rogo the Wild.
Awesome.
But you can also visit my website, rogothewild.com. If you type into Facebook Rogo the Wild, you'll see a page named Just Rogo come up. You can follow that. And what I've been focusing on lately is through my website, I've been focusing on doing a subscription only or a fan subscription page where I give exclusive slide lessons, exclusive sneak peeks to videos, to music, to news, and that's only $5 a month. It's kind of like,
oh, cool,
favorite artist a cup of coffee, and they get all this exclusive things. But another thing that you can do is sign up for my email list. That's completely free. And that's just on my website, Rogo the Wild. So when in doubt, just go to rogothewild.com and you'll find everything there. And I do teach Zoom lessons as well, private Zoom lessons.
Fantastic. I might need some slide lessons.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate this, Sarah. We're going to pop all the links up, and best of luck to you in your musical journey. It sounds like it's constantly evolving. And I'm just grateful that you were able to share your story with us.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.